is to reinforce the idea that collective bargaining needs to be limited. Our educational system is failing. Our kids are less prepared for the future. The economic downfall of 2008 has only made things worse. States across the nation are in serious trouble with debt. Now is not the time to have a system in place that leaches money out of our state's budgets. We have to be realistic. We can no longer afford collective bargaining in their current state. Unions have a negative impact on our educational system. Collective bargaining is detrimental to our educational system because it takes away from the primary focus, our children. It is important to state that we are not here to debate against the right for people to unionize. We are here to argue against collective bargaining. First, I'll talk about how collective bargaining takes away from our kids' education. And second, I'll explore why we need to limit collective bargaining. And conclude by giving an outside example of the negative effects collective bargaining had on our auto industry. Collective bargaining takes away from our kids' education. The focus is no longer our children, their education, or the future. Terry Moe of the American Journal of Political Science states, collective bargaining will not exist except for the power of the teachers' unions. And the core interests they pursue in negotiations are rooted in their own survival and well-being as an organization, not in the students' achievement. The harsh reality is that unions' main purpose is that of its members. Students are nothing more than money makers. Terry Moe states, the unions use their power, their basic work design power, enhanced by their political power, to get restrictive rules written into collective bargaining contracts. And these restrictions ensure that the public schools are literally not organized to promote academic achievement. When contracts rules make it difficult or impossible to weed out mediocre teachers, for example, they undermine the most important determinant of student learning, and that is the teacher's quality. Collective bargaining must be limited. The issue comes down to sustainability. We cannot afford to pay for the benefits that unions demand. Robert Costrell writes from the Wall Street Journal, in Wisconsin, for instance, the teachers' unions don't just bargain for health dollars. It also bargains to require the local school districts buy health insurance for their teachers through the union-affiliated health insurance plan called WIA Trust. That requirement gives the union, not the state, ultimate say over the health benefits. It also costs the state at least $68 million more annually than it would if schools could buy the state employee health plan, money that goes to a union outfit. The money has to come from somewhere, and it comes, as always, from the taxpayer. Robert Costrell states, what these numbers ultimately prove is that the excessive power of collective bargaining, teachers' main pension plan, is set by the state legislature. But under the pressure of local bargaining, the employee's contribution is often pushed onto the taxpayer. Collective bargaining negatively affects the auto industry. We must understand that unions damage other sectors of our country, not just education. The auto industry is a prime example. James Shirk of the Heritage Foundation states, consider how the auto workers union, representing the auto workers in Detroit, functions. Before the current downturn, the union routinely went on strike unless Detroit automakers paid what they demanded. Until recently, $70 an hour in wages and benefits. Gold-plated union members' health benefits for retirees and active workers added $1,200 to the cost of each vehicle. Other benefits such as full retirement after 30 years of employment and the recently eliminated jobs bank, which paid workers for not working, added more to the cost of vehicles. Collective bargaining limits the ability for employers to invest and profit. As James Sherp states, lower investment obviously hinders the competitiveness of unionized firms. Detroit automakers have done so poorly in the recent economic downturn, in part because they invested far less than their non-union competitors in research and developing fuel-efficient vehicles. When the price of gas jumped to $4 a gallon, consumers shifted away from SUVs to hybrids, leaving the Detroit car makers unable to compete and costing many union members their jobs. We can learn from this example and correlate it to education. Collective bargaining limits the ability for states to invest in education. Students suffer, and eventually teachers lose their jobs. So with this, we can conclude that we must limit collective bargaining. This country can no longer afford the promises of the past. We are endangering our future and our children's future. Collective bargaining takes away from our educational system. It hurts and it slows our economy. We must limit collective bargaining. It is in the interest of everyone.
You don't have to apologize. That's the